Southern Thailand is now facing one of the most intense and fast-escalating flooding disasters seen in recent years, a situation that has unfolded with remarkable speed as relentless rainfall and an exceptionally powerful monsoon system continue to batter the region. What began as a developing weather disturbance around November 19 quickly grew into a full-scale emergency by November 24, as a broad low-pressure system parked itself over the peninsula and dragged enormous streams of moisture and land from the surrounding seas. The atmosphere became so heavily saturated that thunderstorms were generated endlessly, releasing wave after wave of torrential rain that overwhelmed drainage networks and pushed rivers far beyond their natural limits. Some of the most dramatic impacts are being reported in Songkhla Province, particularly in the major city of Hat Yai. Here, rainfall totals surged past 300 millimeters in just a single 24-hour period, an amount rarely seen and comparable to some of the heaviest historical rainfall events ever recorded in the region. Within hours, streets transformed into powerful brown water channels rushing between homes, markets, and apartment buildings. Cars were swallowed halfway. Entire sidewalks vanished beneath fast-moving currents. Residents say the water rose so rapidly that many had only minutes to lift belongings, electronics, and documents to higher shelves before their ground floors were submerged. Meanwhile, the situation continues to deteriorate across Pattani, Yala, and Narathiwat, three provinces positioned directly beneath the most intense portion of the monsoon flow. Thunderstorm clusters repeatedly rebuild over the same areas, a phenomenon known as training, where storms move in lines that dump heavy rain over identical locations for hours or even days. This pattern is the perfect recipe for flash floods, dam overflow events, and dangerous landslides along steep terrain. Dozens of villages in these provinces are built along riverbanks or at the foot of mountains, placing them in the direct path of powerful runoff. As water rushed down hillsides, it carried mud, uprooted trees, and debris into communities, creating blockages that only worsen flooding in already vulnerable, low-lying zones. Meteorologists describe the atmosphere as deeply saturated, meaning the air has reached a point where even the smallest disturbance can trigger violent downpours. The low-pressure center hovering near the coast continues to funnel warm, moisture-loaded wind from the sea, fueling broad zones of rain with no clear sign of weakening. Weather models suggest that new pockets of intense rainfall may continue forming along the western coastline before drifting inland across the peninsula. This raises growing concerns that areas already underwater may experience further increases in water levels over the coming days, complicating rescue operations and increasing the risk of new emergencies. Emergency hotlines throughout southern Thailand have been overwhelmed with calls for assistance. More than 400,000 residents have now been affected to varying degrees, from mild water intrusion in homes to complete loss of property. Rescue teams are navigating unstable, dark streets where electricity has failed in many areas. Emergency workers maneuver through strong currents, reaching residents trapped on upper floors or rooftops. In Hat Yai alone, fleets of small boats and high-clearance vehicles have been deployed to evacuate elderly residents, families with young children, and stranded tourists. Evacuation centers are operating at full capacity, providing food, clean water, and temporary shelter as the rain shows no sign of letting up. The scale of infrastructure damage is becoming increasingly alarming. Main roadways connecting southern provinces have vanished beneath floodwaters or collapsed under pressure. Bridges spanning swollen rivers have become unstable, with some declared unsafe due to shifting foundations and powerful underwater currents. Public transportation has been severely disrupted. Long-distance bus routes are suspended, and airports in affected regions are facing delays as ground crews work to drain water accumulating on runways. One of the most concerning developments is the situation along the Utapa River system, which flows through much of Songkhla Province. Water levels have risen steadily for days. Several monitoring stations recorded levels reaching to 2.5 meters above riverbanks, putting enormous pressure on embankments and floodwalls. Authorities warn that if levels continue to rise, several districts could face prolonged flooding, especially those located near river mouths and natural flood basins. Coastal communities are battling challenges of their own. Strong winds along both the Gulf of Thailand and the Andaman Sea have created hazardous marine conditions, with waves climbing up to 3 meters. Fishing boats remain anchored, as conditions grow increasingly unpredictable. Ferry services connecting mainland towns to nearby islands have been suspended, leaving some travelers temporarily stuck. Harbor officials have issued advisories urging all small craft to remain ashore until conditions improve. The ongoing flooding is also dealing a heavy blow to the local economy. Hat Yai's commercial districts, known for shopping malls, bustling markets, and cross-border tourism, have been forced to close as basements and storefronts fill with water. In rural areas, farmers face devastating losses as crops are washed away and livestock struggle to survive rising waters. Economists warn that the damage will extend far beyond the end of the storm. Rebuilding infrastructure, restoring farmland, and repairing homes will require significant time and resources. Local authorities continue issuing evacuation warnings, particularly for communities located near riverbanks, canal networks, and hillside zones susceptible to landslides. Emergency medical teams, sandbag stations, and supply distribution centers have been set up as officials brace for further rainfall. The main priority remains safeguarding lives, ensuring access to clean water, and providing safe shelter for displaced families. Residents are urged to avoid unnecessary travel, remain alert for official updates, and prepare emergency kits should conditions worsen suddenly. Looking ahead, weather agencies caution that heavy rainfall is expected to persist through at least November 25th. Even after the rainfall tapers off, saturated soil, swollen rivers, and unstable weather patterns mean the situation could evolve unpredictably. Floodwaters trapped in river systems may take days or even weeks to fully recede, bringing the possibility of extended flooding in several districts. This event forms part of a broader pattern of extreme weather that has affected Southeast Asia this year. Intensified monsoon surges, prolonged rainfall events, and increasingly volatile atmospheric conditions have struck multiple countries in the region. Experts emphasize that shifting climate patterns are making seasonal weather less predictable and often far more severe, increasing the likelihood of large-scale flooding and destructive rain events in the years to come. Despite the challenges, emergency workers, volunteers, and local communities across southern Thailand have shown remarkable resilience. They continue working tirelessly to support one another, protect homes, and navigate the crisis together. The days ahead will be critical as authorities monitor river levels, assess damaged infrastructure, and conduct further evacuations where needed. While residents hope for improving weather, the impacts of this flooding event will likely be felt long after the final storm clouds disappear. As the crisis continues to unfold, communities across southern Thailand are finding themselves in a constant state of vigilance, waiting for the next update, the next emergency alert, or the next sudden rise in water levels. The psychological toll is becoming increasingly visible. Families who have already lost homes or businesses now face sleepless nights, watching the rain fall relentlessly and wondering if the worst has yet to come. In many districts, residents remain perched on upper floors, listening to the sound of distant sirens, rushing water, and the echo of helicopters circling overhead as rescue teams search for anyone still in need of help. Doctors working in temporary clinics warn of growing secondary health risks. When floodwaters remain stagnant for long periods, they become breeding grounds for bacteria and mosquitoes, increasing the risk of waterborne disease and dengue fever. With hospitals overwhelmed and some medical facilities partially flooded, volunteers are stepping in to distribute disinfectants, bottled water, and basic medical supplies. The goal is to prevent a public health crisis from emerging on top of the ongoing emergency, but with each additional day of rainfall, maintaining sanitary conditions becomes increasingly difficult. Beyond the immediate chaos, the environmental consequences of the flooding are also beginning to surface. Vast amounts of debris, plastic waste, and sediment have been carried into rivers and wetlands, threatening local ecosystems. In provinces like Yala and Darthiwat, areas known for their diverse wildlife and delicate forest systems, conservationists fear that landslides and erosion may cause long-term damage to habitats that sustain